Hey friends, this is Jess with Virtually Visual. Today I just wanted to give a brief tutorial, an easy tutorial, on how you can recreate this fun pink landscape that I've created with this cool mirror shot. This is on my Behance, and it's really actually pretty simple, so I thought I would just show you today how I created that. So first, when you're in your empty scene in Cinema 4D, I like to set up the camera shot. So we're gonna need something to kind of help us along there, frame it. So I'm gonna add just a basic landscape item, and I'm not gonna make it too wide or long, excuse me. I'm just gonna kind of put some placeholders. I know when I created the original shot, I had two of these mountain scenes going on, one for the background and one in the foreground. Let's try playing with seed. And this part is totally customizable. Do whatever you would prefer as far as what your mountains will look like. You can play with the different furrows. Obviously, the more segments you have in here and rough and fine furrows, the more detail you're going to get. I wanted to have a more smooth, more rolling hills kind of look, so I didn't have a lot of rough furrows, I don't think. Okay, and just to kind of help my eyes as I create these mountains, I'm going to set up my camera. Just a standard, and I'm using Redshift, so obviously if you have Redshift, that will be most helpful with this tutorial. Okay, I'm gonna bring my camera down kind of low. Oh, and I do want to change my focal length to something like 85. And keep the camera angle kind of low. I'm gonna make the height of these a little bit different now that I know where my camera is placed. Okay. So, just mess with the landscapes, like I said, to get the specific settings that you want. I'll just click on both of these so you can see the exact settings I had for my mountains. This is the background mountain and this is the foreground. And while we're at it, I'm just going to name these. So we got background and foreground mountain. And the next thing I want to do, just to help us in our setup, is add a dome light. And I just used one of the default Redshift HDRIs, which you can find by going to the asset browser HDRIs. And I believe I used this one, the Sunny Hinsather one that we got here. Just pull that and drag it into your texture space in the dome light, and it will show up. And then we can just get a preview of what that's looking like if we go to Redshift in our top menu, Redshift render view. I'm going to pull this and put it next to our window here, and let's just hit play. So we can see how that lighting's looking. It's a nice lighting. I don't want this landscape showing in the background though, so I'm going to try to rotate my dome light so it's just the sky showing. So I'm going to go click on the dome light and then coordinates, and I'm going to try to find a spot where I know we'll probably get more sky. You could also just use any other HDRI that is just maybe just a blue sky. It doesn't have trees in it. That might be more helpful. But for now, I'm just going to say that that's good. We just got our blue sky in the background. The next part is the mirror, which is really simple. What I'd used to create the mirror was just a cube. And I'm going to exit out of our camera here. And we're just going to make this really thin and narrow, and then we can probably take the height down a little bit. And let's see, if we have our Redshift render view in our camera, we'll be able to see where we're placing this. So just get it to a spot that you personally like. I'm gonna say about right there. And I might even bring our camera down a little bit. So now that we've got our mountains in place and our mirror kind of set up and ready to go, we've got the fun part, which is scattering all the plants. And for that, I used Bridge, the Quixel Mega Scans that you can find in the Bridge app. So if you don't have Bridge, I would recommend downloading it. You can download a bunch of their assets for free and use them in your projects. And they're super seamless and very, very realistic looking. They've got a ton of great assets. I like to go in here and I mainly use it for all their 3D plants that they've got going on. But like, look at all these. They've got a really nice selection of a variety of plants that you can use. So I'd recommend using this. You don't have to, obviously, but it just makes things easier to not have to model all of these things every time you want to do a project. So I'm really liking this kangaroo paw plant. That could be our more bushy type. And then even these two would go well together. They're just very different, but they seem like of a similar family. So those could go well. So let's do that. Let's do the kangaroo paw, and then we're doing the yellow flower. Also, make sure that you are not doing atlas plants. You'll see that if you go into Bridge and you go to 3D plants, maybe it might be. Oh, so here we have this whole section of atlases. If you're just going in Bridge and you're searching for like flowers, you may get some of these atlas plants, and they look great, and I didn't really understand what this was at first. And like, you can use these. I'm sure there are plenty of great ways to work with them, but they are simply flat textures as far as I'm aware. So if you're using those to scatter a bunch of plants, you'd have to cut out each of these from each of these atlas textures to use them. So I prefer just using the 3D plants. But let's find our kangaroo paw and the yellow flower again. I've gotten issues before with importing stuff into Cinema 4D, and that is because if you go up here to your material manager and go to material tools, if use no materials for presets is checked, you might get issues importing things from Bridge. At least that has been my experience. So I would uncheck that before you import anything. Go back to Bridge, select what kind of resolution you want for your plants, and then let's click download. All right, and once that's downloaded, you can just hit export, and it should import it to Cinema 4D, and it might take a second, but it should show up. So we're gonna have to scale those down, but before we do that, let's import our yellow flowers as well. So again, just download and then export to Cinema 4D. So we can close Bridge now that we have all the assets that we need. I am just going to go, I'm going to find where the other plants end. I think it's with this GMVC one. So I'm going to bring in a null to kind of group both of these just to make them easier to work with. And then I'm going to scale those down. The shortcut to scale, you just press T in the 3D viewport, and then you can drag your cursor and it will scale those down. Okay, let's also just pull these up so we can see them. And they're still too big. All right, let's say like about that size, and then let's bring the other ones up and scale those down. Let's do like that. Okay, so we've got our two different kinds of plants scaled. So what's next? So, all right, I'm gonna name these two. This top null is our yellow flowers, and this bottom one is kangaroo paw. Okay, so to get them all scattered on here, you've probably seen this in other tutorials, you're going to need a matrix scatter, which is a Redshift item. And I believe it's in, yeah. So when over by the cloner, if you hold down, it's going to be under there. Click on your matrix scatter. Also, I think I'm going to join our mountains just to make this easier. You don't have to do this. But if with matrix scatter, it needs a single object to scatter things onto. So it just will help us if we choose, if we make these one object. So I'm going to highlight both of our mountains, right click, and then go to current state to object. And that just made copies. So just click both of those. They'll be the editable looking ones with the triangle icon. And then right click on them and click connect objects and delete. And let's just bring this down and let's turn off our old mountains. And for the sake of this, just to be non-destructive, let's make an archive null. Let's drag those in, and then we'll deactivate that. So if we have anything we need to save, but we don't want to see, we can put it in there. Also, let's save, because I haven't done that yet. We've got our background mountains, And what we want to do here, you could just go to your matrix scatter, change this to object, and then drag in your background mountains here, and it will start to scatter these little box particles. But I don't want the scattering to be on every bit of these mountains, because that will it'll bog down the computer unnecessarily. So what I want to do is, let's turn off the matrix for now. Click on your background mountains, and let's go into the face view. And we're going to use our lasso select. And we're just going to select the areas we want to have scattering. And I'm doing it this way. I'm not going to move out of my camera view because I just want to select the stuff that's going to be visible in the camera. So I'm going to just start dragging an area that I want. Ooh, also, before I do that, so if you let go, it's selected a good area. But in the right, you'll see these two check boxes. And one is visible only, one is tolerant selection. I'm going to check visible only, because if we don't, it's also going to select through the mountain. It's going to select the back faces as well, which we don't need. So let's just do visible only, and let's reselect. Okay. So it may look a little different, and that's just because it's only kind of selecting the faces that are front to us, if that makes sense. It's front facing. So I'm going to select out of our camera a second, and you'll see what I mean about it. Only selected what was visible from that camera view. And I'm going to select a few more of these areas just to make it a little bit more seamless. And I'm going to deselect this spot over here, which I think if you hold down Control and do another selection, it will deselect those. We're still getting some, but that's okay. All right, so let's go back to our camera view. With this stuff selected and we're on our background mountains, go up to the select in the menu bar and go down to store selection. So this is going to make a new polygon selection on the background mountains, and you can name this. I'm going to call this scatter area. And then what we can do, let's turn back our matrix on. Inside our matrix now, we have this selection area, and we can just drag that selection. So now it will only scatter on those spots that we set up. But obviously, if we hit play here, we're not getting our objects scattered. So we need to change that. To do that, let's go to the Redshift object tab in our matrix. And if right now it's on optimize spheres, which are these little white spheres you may see in your scene. And we need to change this to custom objects. And let's open up our nulls with all of our plants. We're gonna have to do this 2 times. Select all of the plants in one null, click on the Redshift tag on the matrix object, and then drag your custom objects in. You know what, we're not gonna have the yellow flowers in there because I might want some specific sections for that, so we'll be more precise. So let's just close those for now. We'll just have our kangaroo paw, more bushy plants scattered here first. So I don't know if we need the source objects visible. Let's just drag our plant nulls out of the way for now, just so we don't see them in our scene. And as you can see, the plants are showing up in here, but we only have a couple being scattered. So go to your Redshift matrix, go back to the object tag, and here we could increase this to, let's try 1,000. So that's what 1,000 looks like. I do think we need to rotate these a bit. I forget which one of these it is, but let's try the p-value, -90. That might have been it, because they all look kind of upright now. All right, let's increase this. Let's try 10,000, and we'll sit with that even if it's not perfect. But because these are Redshift being scattered by the Redshift matrix, it runs pretty fast, which is really nice. So let's say those are our bushy plant coverage that we want. So now I want to actually take out some spots that I want the flowers to be focused in. So let's uncheck our Redshift matrix for now. Go back to our polygon selection tag on our background mountains. Let's select that and make sure you have your background mountain selected. And I'm going to click out of my camera view, And I'm going to select some areas that I know I want the flowers to be focused, which in my behance render, I had mainly around the mirror. And let's just select in the mirror so we don't have any plants intersecting there. And then let's just pick a couple other random spots. Let's try right here and maybe right here. Okay, so those are the deselected spots now in our bush coverage that we want to mainly leave open for the flowers. So to update our selection, just click on the tag, click update. So now it will not have plants scattered in those spots. But now we need to make a new selection for the flowers. So you're kind of going to have to eyeball this. I'm going to select generally right here. I'm going to select here. And actually, if we turn our Redshift matrix on, we can probably see better where those spots were. And then here. And a little bit here. Okay. Oops. All right, so I think we've generally got the same selections going. So let's click select again and store selection. And this will be our flower scatter. So if we go up to our Redshift matrix, let's get back in our camera view. We are going to make a new Redshift scatter matrix object just for our flowers. So let's go to the cloner area, do matrix scatter, drag in our mountains again like we did before. Actually, hold on, let me change this to object first so we can do that. Do background mountains, and then this time we're going to pull in our flower selection. And we're going to go to Redshift object and change this like we did before to custom objects. Open our flower null, select everything, go back to the Redshift tag, and then pull these in. So now we need to change, let's also name our matrices. Flower scatter and bush scatter. And let's make sure we rotate our flowers like we did before the plants, the other plants. Okay, so make sure you save your projects as you're going, because sometimes Cinema 4D crashes. So I'm going to redo this again. I'm just going to color all the plants. So what we're going to do here is go into our materials. We can delete the existing flower materials. Our plants are going to show up then as gray. Also, let's make sure we go back up to material, tools, and check use no materials for presets. And we're going to create a couple materials, one for the mountains, one for the plants, and then one for the mirror. But let's start with the mountains first. So go to material standard. Let's name this mountains. Let's drag this onto our background mountain, and we'll change the color. Something like that. You can see that in the background. And then we're going to create, we can just duplicate this, hold control and drag. Oops. Control drag, let's name this plants. And we can drag that over our yellow flowers and our kangaroo paw. Oh, but they won't show up unless we delete the old existing materials. Now we can close this. And that's the essentials. We have that going. Also, let's pause our IPR. Let's go into our render, edit render settings, because we haven't changed anything here yet. We've just got the default stuff. I'm going to change this to settings that work best for me, and settings I think you should be aware of. I like to have 300 ppi or dpi for resolution. And I'm going to change our size to 1920 by 1080, which is the same ratio but higher res. And then we're going to go into Redshift and Advanced. And let's change the threshold to 0.1 For a little bit sharper, I like to change the filter to Lanczos and 6 for the filter size. I'm going to turn off denoising if it's enabled, but it's already off, so we're good. I'm also going to uncheck automatic sampling and change this to 8 and then 256. Oops. And then let's go into globals, or global illumination. Change irradiance point cloud to brute force. Turn off caustics. And let's go to system memory and change the used GPU memory to 60. Then you can close this, save just to be safe, and hopefully this loads a little bit better, but it should look the same. You didn't change anything here. So the plants look a little dark, so I'm gonna see if I can lighten that up a bit. That may be achieved with plugging a similar color into subsurface and then turning this all the way up to 1, and it's currently got a white like scattering radius going on, so maybe we can change that to slightly pink. Yeah, maybe that's what we want, maybe. Okay, we've moved the dome light a little bit. The lighting is only slightly different, but I kind of like where that's at. Oh, also, let's change the reflectiveness of the mountains. We don't want that shiny. I'm just going to take that all the way up. Okay. Let's say we want some more color variance in our plants. If we double click on the plant material, we're going to add 2 things. We're going to add a ramp. And we are going to add a max on noise. Plug the noise into our ramp as an alt input, and then drag that to color, as well as subsurface color. And let's increase our noise size, because right now it's really small. Let's try 100, or maybe even 80. We don't need it that big. And then let's change our ramp colors here. You could load a preset. They've got a lot of cool ones, or you could just make your own. I'm just going to make my own since I don't want too many going on. Let's see what that's looking like. Okay, it's interesting. Maybe we'll increase the noise size actually. Let's try 300. I don't want so many small variations. Oh, okay, that's too much. Let's try 150. That's kind of fun, the color variation there. Let's make sure our roughness is up for our plants. Okay, so I'm gonna just do that. That's a little different than what I did for my render. Obviously, I just had pink, but let's just go with that. And we're gonna create our mirror material now. Go to standard material, change this name to mirror. And we're going to drag this onto our cube, which we should also rename to mirror. And this one's really simple. We're going to bring the metalness up. We're going to bring the roughness down. Let's bring the brightness of the material up a little bit too. And then let's actually, I don't think we have any segments on our cube yet, so let's do that. Let's just drag these all the way up. And then, oh yeah, it's reflecting our dome light right now, so we might need to find another dome light that's just sky. Let's try this almost clear one. I don't think that's what I used. I used the one I have on, but maybe we can try this. If it doesn't work, I'll just go back. Oh, let's try moving this dome light around. Let's just default these values again. And let's bring the brightness up a bit. Let's do 2 exactly. And then let's try rotating this. I kind of want something fun in the mirror. So that's pretty cool. I really like that. So again, this is a different dome light than what I used in my original render. But I think this is kind of just one of those trial and error things where you experiment, you try new things, and you might be surprised. So I like that. I think that's looking fun. But obviously everything's in focus right now, and we don't want that. So let's go to our camera. Also, I'm gonna duplicate this camera by holding Control and dragging. Let's rename the original to main cam, and let's rename the second one to close up. And staying on our main cam with it selected, let's go into the optical tab, and let's enable bokeh, and let's set this down to maybe 4. And we can use this little eyedropper tool to select where we want focus. And I want focus on the mirror. So when we do that, it might not change too much in our scene. And if it doesn't and you don't like that, you can lower this value. We could even do like 2, just see if that starts to blur anything. Also, I think I'm gonna change the mountain color so it matches the roots of these plants a little better. Okay, so we got our main cam. I like, there's a subtle blur going on right now, which I like. And let's enable our close-up, and this is where we can pause our thing and move into kind of where we think we're gonna want more focus. So I think before I had this kind of upward angle shot. Let's see, let's line this up to kind of where we want. Let's hit play, let's just see what that's looking like. Okay, I kind of like that. And on that one too, this camera, this close-up, we also need to enable the bokeh. Let's lower this down to like 4. And let's select our mirror just for now. And we've got some nice soft focus going, leading up to our mirror. So let's actually lower this some more. Try 2. And I've noticed that we've got a flower poking through our camera, so I'm gonna go to our flower scatter, and I'm gonna change the seed just to see if that helps. Oh, actually, I think it's our bush scatter that's messing with that. There might be some areas that we need to deselect. There we go. That kind of looks better. There might still be some spots, but I think that kind of fixed that. Alrighty, folks, so that is how you recreate the plant mirror scene that I had in my behance. Obviously, feel free to get creative with it. Import more plants if you want, scatter more if you want, scatter on the whole thing if you'd like. You could get even crazier with this aperture and do smaller values if you're feeling really crazy, and that almost gives like a miniature kind of look. I'm gonna keep mine around 4. But yeah, add more camera angles, really play with it. You can get super creative. So I hope that you enjoyed learning how to recreate this. If you have any tutorial ideas, requests, things you want to see, feel free to let me know. Or even if there's stuff on like my behance, you're like, I also want to learn how to recreate that, definitely let me know there too. Hey guys, I wanted to quickly address something that I ended up also doing and that I forgot to record earlier. Some of the flowers had looked a little weird. Like they had this like plain, like the details in the petals weren't there. It was just like this flat piece of paper wrapped around a stem. And I realized that was because we do actually need elements from the original materials that came imported. And the element I'm talking about is actually the opacity map. And the way you can find that, you double click into those original materials, find this opacity section, and you can click the folder that it shows, and you'll be able to find where that map is stored. And you can even just highlight this and copy that and then paste that in your Finder. And when you do that, you'll get the same spot, obviously. And you're gonna want to open your plant material that we've created with the orange and the pink and the different colors. And you're gonna want to drag in that opacity map that you have there. And you'll just plug that into the Redshift opacity spot. And that should bring back those details and shapes that may have been missing. I also, just for fun, you don't have to do this, but if you want a little bit more variety in your plants, you can bring in a random effector, which you just find here. It's right here. And for parameters, you turn off position, you can add some rotation and maybe some slight scale. And I just dragged that into the effectors section on both of my matrix objects. So that's really it. Those are just the added things I wanted to make sure I showed you. And I'm going to render this out. Thanks for watching. Bye.